she won't call me back.
Excuse me?
That's what you were thinking just now, right? Why won't she call me back? Am I right?
Yeah.
You know the old saying about wishes?
Yeah, I'm not asking for much here, pal.
May I tell you a story?
Sure.
Marvelous. I knew a man like you once. Oh, but not nearly as handsome, don't worry. He too was sitting on a park bench, stewing over his latest failed relationship. She was just another notch in his belt, but he'd grown quite fond of her. He'd even begun contemplating on starting a family.
I could relate.
Can't we all?
So, what happened to your friend then?
He wasn't a friend. He was more of a client of sorts. Well, this man, he sat on a bench and he stared at this girl's house for hours, calling over and over and over again, wishing, begging, and praying that she'd pick up. And she never did, of course. And it turns out all those wishes that he sent into the ether were bound to fall onto prying ears. So on a day, much like today, as he was sitting and on the verge of tears staring at his phone, a very well-dressed, handsome, and suave individual approached him and offered him a deal.
Let me guess. Sell his soul for a phone call?
Oh, heavens no. While this handsome stranger did have mysterious powers, they were nothing like that, no. All he asked for was a single year. One single year of the man's life in exchange for one guaranteed phone call. You see, this stranger, this attractive, kind, and charismatic stranger, he acted as a sort of supernatural telephone operator. He could give the man one guaranteed phone call. Hell, he could give anyone a guaranteed phone call from anyone they desire, all in exchange for 1 year of their life.
Sounds like a loony to me.
Maybe so, but even if he was, then there'd be no harm in taking the bargain, would there? Well, what's 1 year? What's 1 year? What does anyone have to lose? One small year in the twilight of his life, half there, half not, pissing and shitting himself in a nursing home? One small, itty-bitty year in exchange for the possibility of reuniting with his beloved and living for the rest of his life by her side. This, the man thought, was a bargain, and he happily accepted the deal. 1 year for one phone call.
So this guy actually said yes?
Why, of course.
And it worked? His call went through?
It most certainly did. The handsome stranger was no liar.
So why are you telling me this?
My dear boy, it's simple. I simply wish to make you the same offer that I made him.
A year of my life for a phone call?
Now, I see you're skeptical, but think about the man in my story. What harm could there possibly be to agree? If I'm a sham, nothing happens. But if I'm not, your wish will come true, and she will call you back.
Alright. Deal.
Excellent.
Wait. Aren't you gonna tell me what happened? Did the man ever get the phone call? Did they ever live happily ever after?
Well, after the handsome stranger had let him be, the man took his phone and dialed her number, cautiously optimistic that it might actually work. The phone rang for a few seconds, and then she answered. There was silence. It takes a couple seconds for the connection to be established. First, there was static. And after the static cleared, it made way for a soundscape that was unlike anything he could ever imagine. He heard the screams of thousands that seemed to echo in the walls of a deep cavern. He heard the sounds of sizzling fire and searing flesh. And as he strained his ears, he could just barely make out the sounds of sparks flying as metal collided against metal. Shocked and frazzled, he went to hang up the phone, but not until he heard the familiar voice of the girl. "Make it stop," she sobbed. "Please make it stop." He dropped his phone in fear, and it shattered into pieces. But the sounds still came through the broken speaker.
What did he do?
He tossed the remains into the woods and ran home. He couldn't sleep that night, far too frightened by what he'd heard. But the horror truly sank in the very next day. As he tried to return to normalcy, he read the paper on the bus in the morning. He saw her name in the obituaries. She'd died 3 days prior. And since that day, every time he picks up the phone, he can still hear her cries for help and the screams of the damned. But there's nothing he can do about it. The call has been made, and the connection cannot be broken. Oh my. I'm afraid I really must be going. I hear quite a lot of people making wishes today. I mustn't keep them waiting. Well, aren't you going to answer it?